Welcome back, everyone. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, who is showcasing Italy, Sarah Howell. Sarah is an author and presenter and has been involved in teacher development for over 25 years. She has published extensively in the field of primary ELT, and her current areas of classroom research are literacy, visible thinking, and inclusive education in ELT contexts. We're so happy to have you here, Sarah, and now the floor is yours.
Hello again, everybody. So today I'm going to talk about Lapbooking as an inclusive learning tool in the Italian young learner classroom. More specifically, I'm going to talk about very briefly about the inclusive classroom and then talk about what Lapbooks are, why they're a good idea to use in the classroom, why they're a good idea, how to create a lapbook, and then show you quite a few examples of lapbooks that Italian teachers have created with their children. So what is the inclusive classroom? Well, a magnificent group of individuals with different abilities, different ways of learning, different speeds of learning, different interests, and different levels, which all make up a group of individuals with very different needs. Just how do we cater for these different needs with our curriculum constraints, time constraints, and very large numbers in the classroom? It is definitely a challenge for all teachers. And differentiating instruction is quite challenging when we have large classes to deal with. And I'd like to take a little look at Caroline Tomlinson's model of differentiating instruction, and how teachers can differentiate and how differentiation can be according to students' needs. So Caroline Tomlinson has been working on differentiated instruction for, I think, 30, 40 years, and many schools adopt this model worldwide. Differentiation can be, by teachers, can be differentiated through content, what we teach, through the process of how we teach, through the product of how students demonstrate their learning, and the learning space, the environment in which we teach. And differentiation is also according to students' needs, to their level of readiness, which we can obtain information about how ready they are to learn through formative ongoing assessment, through understanding their learning preferences, and through knowledge of what their interests are, what interests them. Differentiation is not a black and white worksheet, and I say that quite categorically because often it saddens me to visit schools and see materials that have been published for children with special educational needs who are given worksheets of simplified materials for course books, black and white worksheets. So you have some students working with colourful, interesting, amazing materials, and you have their companions working with black and white worksheets. This is not differentiation. So what can we do with the Lapbook, and how can we help teachers differentiate learning opportunities for their students through Lapbooks? Well, a Lapbook is a personalised 3D mind map. It's not a new idea. It was first created by Dina Sykes in the United States with interactive materials for workbooks, which developed then into Lapbooks. And it's been very popular with homeschoolers for many, many years, where parents have been trying to create personalised materials for the children they've been educating at home. It has taken off quite recently in ELT in Italy, but teachers have really been lapbooking for many years, for at least 10 years, in other subjects. They are, as I said, personalised 3D mind maps. They are learning by doing tools, and they are all-in-one notebooks, textbooks, and can be used for assessing learning. They are documentation for learning and thinking processes, and documentation of these processes. A lapbook can be really about anything at all, any subject, any topic, any age, and any level of language. Here are just a few examples. So, for example, it could be about a unit of work. It could be based on a story episode in a course book, or a series of episodes in a course book, or a picture book. They could be wordless, so very young learners, based on pictures. They could be based on a clear topic and on processes and skills that we are developing while teaching content with language. They can be based on culture topics and even songs. And I'm going to show you a song lapbook later on today. Their uses are for developing key competencies, which some of the speakers were talking about earlier, and 21st century skills, so critical thinking, creative thinking, collaboration, communication. They can be used for assessing ongoing assessment, so formative assessment and summative assessment at the end of the cycle of school, at the end of the school year, at the end of a block of work. And they can be used for storing information, recalling information, revising, and presenting. So why include lapbooks in the young learner classrooms? Well, first of all, they are extremely inclusive. The children can work at their own pace, at their own level, and on their own interests. They are able to take control of their own learning and feel included at every level. They help learning, thinking and learning become visible. So from something that's quite abstract, it can become concrete, and they can actually feel and touch their own thinking and learning. It's hands-on, 100% hands-on. Lapbooks are discovery-based. Children are encouraged to find out things for themselves and highly motivated into taking on teacher's role and uncover that content, discover it for themselves and decide how best to learn and how they would like to document their own learning. They are picture rich and the pictures are very stimulating for our young learners and very colourful, which aids with memory retention. And both parts of the brain are working together, which enhances the performance. And very important that lapbooks help break down content into manageable chunks. So all children feel included, none of them feel lost, and they can actually all cope and deal with content. So how do we make a lapbook? Well, planning would help. Start off with planning for our classrooms. There are different ways of planning for lapbooks. There is, I've listed here two options. So the prepared, structured kind of lapbook. Pre-prepared would be something that publishers would supply with course books. I think it's fair to say now in Italy that all publishers provide pre-printed lapbook material for teachers, and lots of different projects in their course books. Certainly the ELT publishers do with their young learners materials. Then structured workbooks, structured lapbooks, which would be created by the teacher on the basis of whatever they are working on and decide to work on with children. And then option B, where the pupils actually plan and choose what they're going to work on and how they're going to work on it. A quote from Vygotsky, what a child can do today with assistance, she will be able to do by herself tomorrow. So possibly starting off with a more sort of structured approach and then moving into more autonomy where pupils can plan and choose themselves. An idea of scaffolding, that is. So first of all, giving the students the support they need, and then a picture of a beautiful tree after the scaffolding has been taken. Here is an example of structure for instruction that works, where the teacher presents a focus lesson, and then the teacher gives guided instruction, and they do things together. Then the teacher hands over the responsibility and the students work together in a more sort of collaborative way, and then move on to be able to create their labs independently. The competencies that we are focusing on when we're working with Lapbooks are learning to learn. The students learn how to organise their own work and reflect on this together in the classroom. Plan their own work and communicate with oral presentations of their Lapbook, group discussions, feedback, debriefing sessions after they've finished. And of course, collaboration, very important in an inclusive classroom, is to include all students and work together collaboratively. Here is an example of a planner, quite a simple planner. So we have, the topic is My First Lapbook for a first grade in Italy. And the teacher has planned on the left-hand side the units of work that they've been covering in this Lapbook. A very simple Lapbook because they're very young learners. In Italy, they do an hour of English a week in first grade. The learning objectives, the language that they will be using, and the reference materials. In this case, they'll be using some of the materials in their course book, audio material, video material, flashcards, etc. And then the template materials, the mini books or crafts that they will be including in there. Here is a layout of a visual prepared by the teacher, in this case, for a structured Lapbook, where the teacher is deciding what kind of mini books they will be working on and where these are going to be placed in the it's a good idea to put these up on the board so that the children can actually see the visual layout of the Lapbook, and possibly on different desks for students to look at. And of course, encourage them to personalise. They can move books around, they can change the plan of things, they can include other different information in their Lapbooks. But this is the general plan to get started. We need a folder to start with. A word on folders, just a practical note, so you don't make the same mistake that I made when I first started Lapbook. Hundreds of files and then found they weren't suitable for my needs. I picked up a tip from a teacher in the local school that I work in, Ramina, who said, oh, you're better off using A3 card because when you fold it into the various shapes of the Lapbook, the size is A4 and you can store the A4 Lapbooks in plastic wallets in ring binders. So you can group them together according to the subject of the Lapbook, or each child can have their own ring binder and keep all their Lapbooks in them so that you can go back to them and reuse them in the future. The files are also useful, it's just that they're taller and it's more difficult to store them if you have a question of space. Then you need the templates. There are hundreds of different kinds of templates according to what you're focusing on, what kind of process, what your objectives are. And you can find these quite easily online, downloadable free from lots of different teacher sites who share these kind of materials. The kind of materials you need for a Lapbook, most of these are readily found in any young learner classroom. I think the most particular ones are the split pins, number 6. They are the pins that you need when you want to have some movement between two pieces of card. So, for example, a vocabulary wheel and you'd like to move around the top wheel. So you'd use one of these split pins, or perhaps parts of the body you'd like to move the legs and the arms. Quite a useful little tool to have. Quite unusual, possibly plastic freezer bags. These are, I teach in contexts where I have an hour or 2 hours max with the students, and I have to move on to another class, and sometimes the children haven't finished their activities, so I get them to pack them away in a freezer bag so they don't lose the bits they are working on, and they can either finish them at home or we have them for the next lesson, write their names on the bags. And stickers is an added extra. Collect a big box of stickers in my classrooms, the children bring them in, and then when we're working on Lapbooks, they can take some stickers and have a little bit of extra bling and personalisation in their Lapbooks. This is an example of an early learner's lapbook, a record of learning. And this is, I've always found it quite challenging to track where all the crafts go that we create in our classrooms. And we spend quite a long time creating a craft for the students to practice and produce language. And then the crafts just seem to disappear. They take them home and they are never seen again. And this idea of a lapbook is collecting all the end of unit tasks or crafts or take-home tasks that they do and collect them in their lapbook, so that during the year they build up a collection of language tools and games that we can get out at any moment during the year and practice language. And they can exchange their lapbooks with their friends and they can work on these together. This is a picture of the lapbook with various mini books and types of templates. Here is another option of a lapbook. It's a mini lapbook, a quick fix lapbook, just one page with 2 holes punched in the side so you can put them into a ring binder and collect them over the year. Of just a simple project based on a unit, but it includes a high level of personalisation and engagement of the student. So the unit lapbook, this one in particular, contains a vocabulary activity, a visual personalisation that the student will talk about, a structured activity, which is a gap-filled text, and then a personalised writing activity, and the student will talk you through their materials and then talk to you about their personalised text. And here are some examples from Romina Quattrini, an expert lapbooker in the town where I live. In Italy, the teachers of English are also teach other subjects, so all the other subjects across the curriculum. And Romina uses lapbooks in many different subjects, some of the most amazing projects I've seen. And these are ones that her children are expert lapbookers by the time they're in first grade, and they create their own lapbooks. So they decide on the layout and the content and what kind of mini books they're going to use to represent the content. Here is an example of a Culture and CLIL lapbook, the United Kingdom. So a map, a writing activity, and flags. And here the students are learning about how to identify places on a map, how to use information to write texts and the information available, videos and written content in the course book. And they were finding out about the 4 countries of the UK. Here is Angel. This is a video. I'm not going to show you the video today, but I can send it to anybody who would like to see it. Romina uses a lot of video in her classroom for feeding back with students. So at the end of the process of creating the lapbook, the children in a very informal, stress-free environment talk about their lapbooks to Romina, who films them with their phone in the classroom, and then feeds back to the students. They can watch their video presentations and debriefing session about how they felt this experience went and what they enjoyed about it and what they learned about it. Here are some other topics that can be used with lapbooks for CLIL. History, geography and science are ideal topics. As I said, the teachers in Italy also teach other subjects, so they have a lot of content knowledge to transfer over to their CLIL lessons. Here is Egypt, where children are learning about the map, learning about timelines, how it's created, describing artifacts, describing money, and using hieroglyphics to write their name. And here is another lapbook by some of the pupils of Sara Colombo, another expert in North Italy. And here is a totally student-generated lapbook on the topic that Sara has presented to her class. Another topic on the British Museum. This is quite an interesting collaborative project, discovering content The children here worked in groups in producing a group Lapbook, so they had to decide how to plan it and how they were going to present the information to another group. So they watched video content, they researched content online, and they used their textbooks in class and produced a Lapbook to exchange with another group, and that way they shared information. And then at the end of the session, we did a thinking routine where everybody compared what they had learned. These were the activities when they're open. So there were information cards with various exhibits at the British Museum that they decided to include. They found that's interesting. A vocabulary match game that they created, a timeline, and some questions for the group to answer. They also wrap key language structures. Here is a beautiful Lapbook. I was quite moved when I saw this example by Valeria Sacco, who is a teacher in Caserta, another expert Lapbooker, on multiculturalism. It's a rather difficult age that we're living through at the moment, and Valeria wanted to just stop, slow things down, and do something meaningful for students. And they worked on a text of a song, With My Own Two Hands by Ben Harper. Look at the text and worked on it together and drew some meaning out of the words, and then they created their own Lapbooks and personalised a heart with things that were meaningful. A very beautiful project. And I'm just going to slip in there a quotation from this morning. I don't know if you can read that, from a beautiful presentation this morning from a colleague from Tunisia. When you touch hearts, you open minds. That was from Sameh this morning, and I think my quote of the year. As I said, all subjects and all pupils. This is a Lapbook created when the students asked the teacher if they could actually create a Lapbook, because the teacher was working on the Babylonians in history, and she decided to let them create a Lapbook about Giuseppe Verdi and Nabucco. Beautiful project. And here's an end of year Lapbook, getting ready for secondary school and taking something with them, a memento from primary school, and getting ready for secondary, so revision with everything they've covered in the first 5 years of primary school. And I think that the nice thing on this Lapbook is a special letter from the teacher to take with you up to secondary school. Open. And to finish up, an exam Lapbook by Emanuele, who was 14 years old at the end of the middle school cycle in Italy, where students have oral exams, and this particular teacher, Laura Ferranti, they are allowed to present their materials any way they're presenting them, so they can use PowerPoint, or in this case, this student decided to create his absolutely amazing Lapbook on Australia. Included lots of realia, photographs, captions, texts, and he talked through the Lapbook of examples. Absolutely amazing. And I've come to the end of my session, and if you've got any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. This final picture is on the back of the end of school year Lapbook. It is a tree with all the children's fingerprints. They've coloured their fingers with a cup tip and fingerprinted. They put their fingerprints on everybody's trees and sign their names, so they can take that special memory. Any questions? Oh, and if anybody wants any more information about Lapbooks, you can write to me and I can send you a whole list of the websites that Italian teachers have, and Ericsson, a publisher that produces CLIL Lapbook materials. And there are some amazing examples online, and a couple of very interesting Facebook groups with teachers, primary school, which has 10,000 teachers. And of course, Valeria, and you can see her in the chat box. You can write to Valeria or Romina or Laura, and find them on Facebook too, and ask them about their experiences. How can we write to you? There's my email there. You can write to me on the last slide. There's my email address, and I'll drop it in the chat box as well. And you write to me about any information you'd like at all. How's it teaching young teenagers in Italy? Oh, I think it's the same all over the world. Very challenging age group, very rewarding. I have to move near to the screen. See such a small font. Thank you very much, Valeria.
I think someone had a question about how long does it take?
Yeah, that really depends. It depends on whether you want to spread the work over a series of a few weeks or whether you want to concentrate it. It really depends on what sort of topic you're working on. I usually spend some time over a number of weeks when we're working on a unit, and we do a little bit in every lesson so that we don't take up the whole lesson perhaps on working on that book. So it really depends how you want to plan it and what kind of topic you're working on. Hey, Joanna, I'm glad you'll have a go with your sixth grade. Do look up the work of Dina Sykes. This was the book, 1992, which is full of lots of examples, particularly for secondary school students, actually, primary, but also secondary school students. It can be very rewarding to work with secondary school students on laptops too.
Okay, it doesn't look like there are any questions. It does look like there's a request for you to make a presentation about this um, from Bart.
We're a bit
Yeah.
rushed today.
So clearly a lot of interest in this. I really appreciated all of your examples. It makes such a huge difference to be able to see a variety of different examples. So I think that was so useful, and it's wonderful to see the good work of students who are engaged in these activities in these lab
Yeah.
books. So thank you so much. Thank you very much. And
Thanks
if
for
there's
having me.
no other questions, let's all give some virtual applause for Sarah for sharing her good work with us. And so with that, we'll say goodbye. Thank you, Sarah. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Yes, clap, clap, clap. Wonderful presentation. And we will be taking a little bit over 5 minutes of a break. We will start at 1800 hours GMT with Luciana. And let's just take a moment with Luciana.